Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another MindAbility Matters Extras. We are still hijacking the show for our fabulous Disrupt HR Dallas 5.0 speakers. And who better to be on the show today than the lovely Alberto, who is also part of the Disrupt HR Dallas, Disrupt HR Texas triangle, and has his own Disrupt HR. But today, it's all about Alberto and what he does and why he's disruptive in the workplace. Alberto, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Of course, Sam, and thank you for having me today. It's thrilling to be here with you, and I just want to say I'm again, like you mentioned, I'm the leader of DisruptHR Houston. I'm also with Austin, but I'm so much looking forward to Dallas. You know, the restart of Dallas. And well, my name is Alberto Garcia-Jurado. It's a big mouthful for English speakers, and I've been an advisor, consultant, and kind of a pioneer on a new understanding of human systems in organizations for over 30 years. Done lectures on the subject, written a couple of books, and that it's all about the mission of bringing about a new understanding of what it is that is the human system in organizations.
Do you know, Alberto, I didn't know you'd written two books. When did you write those?
Well, I wrote the first one in Spanish for Latin America because in Latin America we got several cultural issues that are not letting us move forward really and take advantage of all the potential in the region. And then the second one I wrote 3 years ago. It's an ebook and it's online. Anybody can get it on Amazon, and it's called True Collaboration, and it's about human collaboration beyond culture.
Love that. And how did you get into your line of work? Because what you do fascinates me.
Thank you. No, it's well, I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I'm an intercultural specialist. So actually, I created the first intercultural consulting firm in Mexico, in the country, back in the 1980s. We're talking a long time ago. And so I started helping different teams from different cultures, collaborate, understand each other better. I created a very quick model that I call the cultural dimension DAISY. It's just a very graphic model of understanding where people's different cultural differences are in the workplace. It is very workplace oriented, and it became quite successful. But I still remember one day, which was like the a turning point. And we were advising a big joint venture in telecom in Mexico back in the 1990s. And I was sitting at a table, and we had like Germans, Americans, and Mexicans sitting at the table. And they were talking to each other, and they could not understand each other. And I was listening to them, and I realized that they didn't understand each other, not because they were Germans and Americans and Mexicans. This particular time, they didn't understand each other because they were engineers talking to salespeople, talking to accountants, talking to lawyers. And I was going like, oh my goodness, this is a whole different level of intercultural understanding, because there are huge differences between the culture of a lawyer and the culture of an engineer and the culture of somebody, let's say, in sales. And they don't get each other. So that's when it dawned on me that I went like, what are we doing about this? And fortunately, I worked with a lot of CEOs and CFOs and all that C-suite. And I started looking at how people were managing their people. And I realized, and a little bit to the point of my talk in Dallas, Disrupt HR, I realized that there was a big explosion. The last big revolution in HR was in the end of the 70s, all the way to the beginning of the 90s. So like the 80s. That's when we started talking about culture and all that stuff. And I realized something. It was a big explosion, but it only provided part of the solution, and we got stuck there. Mm. Leadership and HR and everybody got stuck there. We didn't move forward. And so I went like, okay, there's got to be a better way. So I started looking at different models for managing systems, because that's the other thing. As a cultural anthropologist, sociologists and psychologists look at human behavior naturally. And most of the people who have their shine and all those guys and all those people, they come from sociology and psychology, and they naturally focus on human behaviors, individual, collective. From the cultural anthropology perspective, you focus on the cultural system, and you understand it as a system. So it's going like, we got all these beautiful ways of managing systems, but nobody's applying them to the human system in the organization. Nobody's looking at it holistically. And even the division between the soft and the hard, we say these are the hard skills, these are the soft skills. That's an imaginary line. Everything's hard. Everything is operations. When people tell me, oh, but those guys are operations, we're not. I say, okay, hold on. So you don't operate anything? Well, yeah, no, but those guys are production. Okay, so you here in human resources, you don't produce anything? Of course you do. The problem is you're not sure about what you produce.
I think going back to exactly what you said, and I can almost envisage, the descriptions of the different people, the finance, the sales, the engineering around that table, and from my experience, how they miss each other. What's that? How do you help them see that there is that commonality, and there is a kind of link and a point where they come together to your point, where one system leads to another? What are some of those light bulb moments that you've seen? Yeah. And going back to my original question, what is that link? Because this is fascinating.
Well, just like an intercultural understanding, and the fact that I started all this with intercultural consulting helped me a lot, because in intercultural understanding, the first step is to understand each other's cultures or the key elements of each other's cultures, but then continue building on that to create a third way. So you might be British, I might be Mexican. So once we understand each other's cultures, the key here is we don't stop there, because just understanding doesn't get you where you need to go. The next step is to build on that understanding to achieve a cultural third way, where we come together and we work, more aligned, more integrated. So we applied that to what I call the human system, the human collaboration system in organizations, because the key here is not the whole system. Culture is a monster. And here's something very important that people don't, if you take a look at the success rate of culture change initiatives worldwide for the last 50 years, is under 30%.
Is it? Wow.
Yes. And one of the reasons is that people don't realize what they're dealing with. Culture, I love what Geert Hofstede, one of the great pioneers of intercultural understanding. For me, he gave the best no BS definitions of culture. He said, culture is the collective programming of the mind.
Love that. Nobody's
born with a culture. We're born with a lot of genetic stuff, but nobody's born with a culture. You get the culture program into you by your collective, by your community. What do you eat? What you don't eat? How you behave here? How you behave over here? What are the values? What are the principles of behavior? All that gets programmed into you. So it's a programming. Mm-hmm. And we don't see it as a programming, but it's a very strong programming, because it gets programmed into us in the very formative first 7 years of our lives. So it becomes almost hardwired into us. It becomes part of your identity. So when you come to people and say, we got to change the culture, on the one hand, it's changing something that's hardwired. On the other hand, it's almost like an aggression against people's very identity, because my culture is part of who I am. So really what you need to do is say, it's not about culture change, it's about coming together under one single language or way of collaborating.
What's that first step in that journey?
Okay, the first step in collaboration systems integration, the first step is understanding the system that we're all part of, understanding how it runs, and understanding that it is a system. It is not rocket science. There's so much out there. Have you ever heard of the PPT framework?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you what it is. I have heard of it.
Okay, every system is made up of people, processes, and technology. PPT, okay? And it's one of the basic frameworks for managing systems. So daily collaboration, you see people connecting with each other daily through a series of processes, having meetings, making phone calls, sending messages. These are processes, clearly observable, operational processes. There's no mystery there. And then all this supported by technology. You got email, right now we're using technology. But PPT teaches us that in order to have a high functioning system, you got to understand those three elements. You have to make sure that they are integrated, that they are balanced, and that they are aligned along the value flow of each unit in the business. But what we've been doing the last 40 years for the system is we've been loading it with technology.
Yeah.
And we've forgotten about the people and processes part, so the system is totally out of balance. So the first thing is to understand. And for example, let me give you this, but this sounds very theoretical. Let me give you an example.
Brilliant.
When email comes about, suddenly everybody's got email, right? And I always ask people when I do lectures or talks or whatever, I said, raise your hands if when you came into the company, you got a company email. Everybody. I says, okay, so you got the technology. But did you also get trained on a formal operating model so that everybody uses email exactly the same highly effective way? Nobody.
I bet.
So we provide the technology heavy, but then people and processes light.
Yeah.
And that's why we have the mess that we have today. We don't see it as architecting a system.
And you've raised so many interesting points. And when I look back at my career and say, when I've been going in selling HR consultancy services, the amount of times where, particularly if I'm dealing with an SLT, so I'll have, for example, the CEO, the COO, and the CFO. The agendas and priorities for all three are different, even though they're all working towards the same goal, right? Yeah. They all understand, they've probably built out the mission statements, the vision statements, they've probably done that all together. And in many instances, the clients I've worked with over the years have. But the interesting part then is when you start to have more of the in-depth conversations, how the priorities change, and therefore that frustration, and to your point, using that kind of interlink analogy, the links are broken because they're now operating in silos in order to get to where they need to get to.
That's exactly the problem. But let me tell you, we never fix it structurally.
Yes, exactly.
We don't structural part. So I just did a consult for a factory, Maquila. I'm not going to name names, but a Maquila, and I did it like 3 months ago. They had all these issues, and they had done I don't know how many consults. And the usual solution, let's give it all, let's try it and everything. I did a very quick exercise. I interviewed each of the managers. You have the factory manager, plant manager, and then you have all the managers. And I asked them the same question. Tell me what are the key outcomes, not from your part, not HR, not production operations, as a plant. What are the key outcomes that would make this year a success?
Great question.
And just the outcomes. Don't give me anything else, just tangible, measurable outcomes. Everybody gave me answers depending on their part of the business. HR said, I have so many people trained and do all that. The only two people gave me a plant outlook. The plant manager and the person in charge of continuous improvement. So when the first session came, we looked at this and said, look, you want an integrated unit. You wanted everything working together. Well, the first thing leadership needs to do is integrate where we're going and what success means. And usually we don't do that. Do you know, and this is from my own, we do initial collaboration system assessments. And I've been doing them for 18 years. Do you know the average percentage of clarity of team objectives for the month in most organizations? When you ask people, what are the objectives of your team for this month? Don't tell me activities. Don't tell me what you got to do. Tell me what you got to achieve. The average is 12% clarity.
Wow.
And it gets even more interesting. When you ask people, can you tell me what are your individual objectives as part of the team for this week? Don't tell me what you got to do, because people tell you all the activities they got to do. You tell them, don't tell me what you got to do. Tell me what you have to deliver this week to the team. Only 19% of people can answer clearly on average.
Gosh.
And meanwhile, we're focusing on all this other stuff, like AI. AI is all the rage, right? And I give this analogy. Right now, you got people driving in their nice beat-up cars, used cars, but they don't know where they're going. Only 19% of people know their team objectives for the month. Only 19% are clear about their own objectives for the week. So they're driving, they don't know where you're going. And now you're going to provide AI. What's going to happen is you're going to have all those people driving brand new Ferraris, but still not knowing where they're going.
Very true.
But people don't go down that level. We assume it. We take it as a granted, whereas the real foundation for teamwork is the management of daily outcomes. Mm. That's where everything begins. Actually, you've done it. I've done it. We've lived in organizations and we've worked with organizations. Almost 60% of all collaboration issues happen because either somebody didn't deliver what they were supposed to deliver or they didn't deliver on time.
Very true. Very true. Alberto, because you're such a deep expert in this area, I'd love to hear, and I know you can't give away names or organizations, but some of the breakthroughs you've had with organizations and how it's unlocked them in a way, because that's exactly what you're doing, unlocking them to help them come together in order to achieve, some pretty spectacular outcomes.
Of course, when organizations decide that they want, and this is a big decision for management, because strangely enough, it's about operational excellence and operational discipline. Mm. And discipline is something that humans hate. And C-suite are humans. So for example, when you say, we're going to set up an operating model for meetings, for example. And what's a meeting? A meeting is a production line. That's all it is. Yeah. You're inputting time, resources, people. You got to take out product, something tangible. So, for example, an operating model will have a standard. The first standard is if you can't clearly convey to everybody the deliverables that you have to get from the meeting, you can't call the meeting. Period. You can't put together a production line without knowing. And strangely enough, people love it because that gets rid of about 40% of meetings. But leadership hates it because you're curtailing their privilege of being able to call everybody into a meeting just because they think they need a meeting. So strangely enough, whenever we go in, the first people that have to work with is leadership because they are the most resistant to going into discipline.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, but when we do that, and we work with oil companies, financial companies, we work with denominational churches. We did a very interesting consult with a huge conference of one of the big denominational churches. The bishop there was running like 1,100 churches, 800 pastors. What? Huge. And interesting enough, what happens when we go in? If it's applied correctly, and by the way we do it is so structured and so tangible that it's about streamlining and standardizing and operating all those processes that connect us formally, like processes. So it's measurable and you can audit it. So we can send auditors to see if things are happening according to the operating models. So usually the examples are, we had this leader who was having like 400 emails per day in a company, 400, 500. We go in, start using the models, standardize, all of a sudden the person was getting like 40 emails per day as the CEO of a company. And I still remember he said, just this for me covers the whole thing, that's it. But not only that, productivity, because people again are not aware of their daily objectives. So when you start doing daily outcome management, for example, this morning, for this week, I got like 20 objectives as the CEO of 2 companies. But this morning, I opened up and I'm at 100% effectiveness and 106.3% efficiency in delivering those objectives daily. So we know exactly what we have to deliver in terms of actual tangible results daily, and we measure it daily. So, and again, when that happens, productivity means how much is everybody producing every week. Productivity usually goes up between 80 to 90%, which is crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's very simple. For example, I've seen some tools like where everybody records every keystroke that somebody's doing remotely, or you can monitor what everybody's doing, and they say it's productivity. Not true. That is control of activity. Productivity is output.
That's really well put. Yes, because there are a lot of these systems now, particularly for remote or those who are more hybrid, where everything is monitored. And I agree. And you can break the system, right? People always find their way around it. And to your point, not only have you then got false figures, you've broken trust. Well done.
Yeah, and people get demoralized, and it feels like, I don't know, it's just bad management. But for example, the way InZync brings in, it's all about outcomes. So you set your outcomes for the week. Me as the leader, I look at them on Monday morning. I give you the okay, or we adjust. It's basically a production plan. What are you going to produce for the team this week? Tell me which day you're going to produce each thing. It's a production plan for the week. Okay, so we agreed those are the outcomes, the deliverables, fine. Go run with it. Why? Because as long as you're delivering what you're supposed to deliver with effectiveness and with efficiency, I don't care how you're doing it. So people think that our model is a straitjacket, but it's total freedom. It's all outcome based. Why? Because I don't care how you work as long as you deliver the outcomes you have to deliver on the day you have to deliver them. That's all. Effective leaders manage outcomes, not activity.
Yeah, exactly.
So that another example, we went into another big company, oil, and this huge 7,000 strong offshore unit. And we did the initial assessment. It turns out that almost 60% of the meetings didn't have clear definition of output.
Oh my days. So
we go in with the models, we start structuring the disciplining. They got rid of about, I kid you not, about almost 40% of all the meetings they had. In real time, they ended up saving close to $1 million a month.
Wow.
In wasted time.
Wow.
But not only that, for example, when we came in with, because they also had very high rotation of managers. When everybody started really putting in paper, and the matrices and the production plans, their weekly objectives. And this is funny because one time one of the units changed managers, and the manager came and everybody had their objectives matrices, everybody was doing well objectives. So when there's nothing like that, it's very easy for the new manager to say, now we're going to do all this. When everything is like that in place, it's like when you go into production line, high performance production line, and you got the metrics for everybody in the line, everybody knows how many widgets they have to produce and everything. You don't mess with it. So what happened, we were actually in the audit that we did after the change in managers, some of the people, one of the assistants was saying, yeah, nothing happened because, the new manager came in, we all had our written objectives, everything was going well, everything is according to the same specs. So he said, so it's all good.
Brilliant.
Because the system has been formalized and is operated for high-performing systems, just like anybody else, with standards, with norms, with procedures, with metrics. It's a system.
So once the clients work with you, and let's go back to a couple of the examples that you've given, there's huge change that's come about. You've talked in a couple of instances about 80+% productivity, improved productivity, which then obviously helps a company to grow, to change, to improve profitability.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At what point do they bring you back in to kind of do the next stage, if you like? Because surely once you've accelerated them, there are other things that they realize, okay, now we need greater efficiencies over here.
Here's the thing. Once the structural fundamentals of the system are set, we don't go back.
Interesting. Okay.
But let me tell you why. It's like ISO 9000.
Yes.
Once you get it standardized, once everything's done, all you get to do is keep the discipline going. That's where the certification comes about. We have the world's first human collaboration system certification.
That's brilliant.
So you go in there, you audit, and if people are at least at 85% effectiveness, efficiency, and alignment in daily collaboration processes, you get certified. And the only thing is, you got to be recertified every 2 years, and that keeps the discipline going. Because let me tell you how this kind of audit works. It's not on paper. If we have this operating model for meetings, the auditors will jump on the Zoom meeting or attend a live meeting unannounced. Just jump in there and see if you're following the model. Or I'll tell you, okay, put up the last 10 emails you sent to see if you're following the email operating model. Or, okay, let me see your objectives matrix for the week. Okay? And so it's about keeping the discipline. And let me tell you, that's nothing new. Operations does it every day. With ISO, with OSHA, with quality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every other, but we, especially human resources, we kind of look at that and go like, no, that's not us. We feel even a little superior in human. Oh, that's operations. That's like those people down in the factory floor. No, that should be everybody in the office. When I go to the big oil conference in Houston, the offshore technology, the OTC.
Yeah.
One of my big hooks is when I see managers or I meet with VPs or whatever, I ask them, why are you just operating only 50% of your operation?
Exactly.
Like, what do you mean that? And I said, yeah, I go to one of your rigs offshore and you got metrics, everything's controlled, standards, everybody knows what they have to produce. You're measuring everything, you got safety. I go to one of your offices and there's nothing.
And how is that received? Because what you're saying is correct and right. How is that received when you first have those opening conversations?
It is an uphill battle because, again, we are so stuck in everything that we learned in the 80s that we haven't been able to make the next jump, building on that to next jump and saying, it's a system. And number one. And number two, it also requires that discipline. And a lot of managers, just like humans, we humans are kind of adverse to discipline. We think discipline is something bad, when in truth, discipline is the only thing that sets you free. I run 2 companies, and I'm in like all the DisruptHRs and everything, and I can do all that because we apply what we do as we preach.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it just frees you up. That's the other thing. In this oil company, for example, they got to a point where they had the highest individual productivity in shallow water production worldwide.
Wow.
But not only that, people in the offices, one of the big deals was that people in the offices were usually leaving. This is a government-owned oil company, which is huge. And people were leaving at 9 o'clock at night on Fridays and every day. They achieved all this by standardizing collaboration and all that, and daily outcome management and all that. And it turns out that they started going home at 6 p.m. every day, and on Fridays they went home at 3 p.m. and they were exceeding all their production quotas.
Incredible.
You've heard about don't work hard, work smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't that the dream for all of us, right?
But the only way to work smart is work by the numbers, with the standards, with total discipline. That's it.
When did you first discover this model? What was it you were doing at the time that made you think there's got to be a better way?
Okay. And again, because of my intercultural and trying to find that integrated model, but also at the same time, I was a high performance athlete in college. I was on the karate team, and I
Oh,
had this. Yeah, and then I got my nose broken several places and all that. And I was also in kendo, the Japanese sword. And my two Japanese teachers there, one of my two Japanese teachers actually was a cultural ambassador of Japan to Mexico. He came from a lineage of 540 years of samurai family, Dr. Takahiko Seo, and he had like ninth Dan world level in his style. So he had this beautiful katana, 300-year-old national treasure of Japan. So he started teaching us kendo. He was the father of kendo in Mexico. Before that, there was no kendo. So I started learning, and I studied kendo for over 7 years and karate. And for some reason, he liked us and he liked me and got me on board as personal assistant. But through my sensei, who also had like two doctorates and was an advisor for companies and all that, I started learning about Kaizen. Have you heard of Kaizen?
yeah.
The continuous improvement model. But
Yeah.
from the Japanese perspective, Kaizen means doing it better. That's all it means. And he always said, look, if you're going to wash the dishes, find a better way to wash the dishes every day. That's Kaizen. And I started learning all these disciplines and everything. So I kind of put the two together. How do you create one single language of collaboration for companies so all the different units can come together under one single way of collaborating, but at the same time make it high performing? And when you start looking at Kaizen and continuous improvement, all the elements are there. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just took this from over here and brought it over here.
And Kaizen actually was implemented in Ford factories and
Toyota and many places. But
exactly. And they brought the management over because they were having huge absenteeism. The car parks are full of Toyotas, not Fords. They lost all the trust, and by introducing Kaizen, they actually found that, to your point earlier about the 1% of the daily improvement, if we made the hand soaps slightly larger on the production line, then it will allow us to do X, Y, and Z. So they listened to it, they implemented it. As a result, the car park then over time became more full of Ford cars, and their retention went through the roof. That's a very, very short synopsis. There are all sorts of stats, but it is such a powerful tool and such an impactful methodology that actually impacts not only work, but how we communicate inside and outside of work as well.
of course, but now the big question is, why are we not taking Kaizen into the office?
Great question. And why aren't we?
I don't know. Paradigms. The moment, look, imagine a room full of HR people and you tell them it's a system. You run a system. Everybody, you will have rejection.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about the paradigms we built about teamwork and leadership and all that. And we made it into this thing.
Absolutely. Alberto, out of all the work you've done, the books you've written, the lectures you've delivered, the kind of education, the education you provided to leadership and teams, what are you most proud of?
I'm really proud of the fact that when we go in, we help people recover their lives.
Love that.
We get rid of. Do you know the noise to signal ratio, the concept?
No.
In broadcasting, it's about whenever you're broadcasting, you get noise in the signal. Okay? But the important thing is the signal.
Yeah.
So the important thing is to have like the best noise to signal ratio, to try to keep noise to the minimum so people can get the signal. Okay, basically what we do is we bring all these models, so the noise to signal ratio in daily work and daily collaboration becomes 90% those things that really matter to move things forward, and 10% of the busy work or things that are done just because you got to do it or don't matter at all. We get rid of that. And then people's lives, you realize how much time you waste on things that don't add value to the business or to your mission or to where you as an individual want to go. And the moment you do that, you can do 8 hours of work in 3.
Oh, brilliant. I love
Why?
it.
Because it's all about production. But it starts, and here's the big part, and I'm going back to this. It starts with management accepting this.
Yes.
With leadership. Because it does mean a huge change for leadership. In what sense? For example, one of the things that happens here is, for example, we tell leaders, the first thing, leadership is about 5 functions. It is not a big mystery.
Mm.
It's 5. What you're doing is operating the human machine. You're an operator. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, and again, it goes against the grain. We want to make leadership into this incredible thing with all this stuff, and it's so mystical and mythical. It's a function. So anyway, so the first thing is making sure everybody's clear about objectives. Why? Because the first thing about being a leader is making sure that everybody knows where we're going. That's it. Number 1, leading 2. So when you tell people every Monday you're going to have to go in there, and you're going to have to look at the objectives that each of your direct reports is setting for the week to make sure that they're setting the right objectives.
That's it. It's the right objectives, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
But then people say, oh, but I don't have time for that. It's going to take up my whole morning. And we're like, hold on. That's like a machine operator telling me, I don't have time to operate the machine. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
But leaders don't see themselves as operating this thing. So when you tell them every Monday, you're going to have to dedicate the first part of the morning to coordinating what the objectives of your team for the week so that the rest of the week, everything just runs. Oh, but I don't have time for that. That's where it begins.
And so much of that is down to mindset, which in itself is something, a huge conversation that I'm sure we'll cover greatly when we're all together in Dallas.
Yes.
Alberto, give us a sneak peek. Whet the appetite for what's coming from you in Dallas.
Okay, my talk is going to be about how we're stuck in the 80s. And I already talked a little bit about that, but we're going to go more in depth, and we're going to be talking about how the fact that HR is stuck back in the 80s has had 2 very large impacts. I'm not going to say which, but 2 very large impacts on the HR function that is actually keeping HR down. And the moment we're able to make the next big jump, that's when HR is going to finally be able to take on their real role. And again, I'm not going to say which one that is until the 18th. And then is when you're going to have a big seat at the table.
I love it. So if you haven't got your tickets for Disrupt HR Dallas 5.0 on September the 18th in Dallas, why not? It is the place to be for HR on September the 18th. It's going to be where the disruptors come together, not for the sake of it, because we all genuinely want a different world of work and we just want it to be better. So come along, get your tickets. Alberto, we always ask 3 fun questions, which I'd love to ask you. So my first one to you is, I'm going to break you in gently. What's your favorite cheese?
Oh, my manchego cheese from Spain.
There you go. See, straight out there.
Love it. It's a goat cheese. Now, it's hard to get here, and the real one is hard to get here in the States. But I love it. Part of my family is from Spain, and I grew up eating that cheese, and it's one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
Oh,
it's my favorite. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, my second question to you is, what is the worst film or television program you've watched in the last year? Just so you can share it with us so we can avoid it.
Yeah, the worst, the worst. Let me think. Okay, I can't even remember the names. You got me stuck on that one because I always look at a couple of very good critics online, and they only watch those films. So I don't have that many, but oh yeah, okay, I got one. It's I went to see the one of the last MC, superhero movies from Marvel.
Oh, yes.
I can't remember the name right now. It's the last one that came out.
Oh, I can't remember. It'll come to me after we've
Yeah,
gone.
well, it's the
Oh,
last one that came out, and halfway through the movie, I was already like, going, "Oh boy, what a waste of time," And it's too bad because I love those movies. I love the Hulk and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
this is my quiet secret. I love those films, but
See, we
this
all
one
know
was
now.
yeah, this one like so boring. It was like, oh, they just missed the mark. It was just badly written. It wasn't even the actors. It was just badly written.
Oh, it's such a shame when that happens, especially when they've got such good actors in these
Yeah,
things.
I forgot the name right now, but sorry about that.
That's okay. And my
Yeah.
third question, which always gets uh, either a raised eyebrow or a laugh, is imagine you're going on holiday. Let's say you're going to Spain on vacation, where obviously you need to go swimming or go to the sea. What is your flotation device of choice and why?
Okay. In the ocean.
Yes. Or
I
the swimming pool.
Yeah, I would say my favorite device is those little boards. Wicca, I can't remember the name. Ouija, Wicca. It's like a surfing board, but half the
Oh, yes. I know the ones you mean.
yeah. You know which ones I mean. So
Yeah.
and then you can ride back on the wave, just laying down on it and riding back. I mean, we go to the beach every summer, so and we take those. So I love those, and they also help you float when you're way out there in the past the breakers, and you're out there floating. It helps you float, and it's not a surfing board. It's just like a half surfing board, and you do it, laying down. But it's really fun. So yeah, I love those.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. Okay, perfect. Alberto, for anyone who's watching today, who's really, really inspired by what you do and would like a conversation, either they're watching live or they're watching a recording, how do they best get in touch with you?
I mean, they can find me on LinkedIn.
Yes, you're prolific on LinkedIn.
Yes, I mean they can immediately find me over there in LinkedIn. It's and I think that's the best way to contact me. Okay, it's my company is called InZync, and it's INZ as in Zulu YNC.com, InZync.com. Why? Because we get everybody in sync. And for my LinkedIn tag is a little different. This is LinkedIn.com IN Alberto Garcia-Jurado US. Okay, but you can find me on LinkedIn. Just put Alberto Garcia middle dash Jurado, and it'll pop up for sure.
Brilliant.
Or
Brilliant.
or you can always attend DisruptHR Dallas on September 18th, and we can have some great conversations.
Yes, we can.
Definitely.
So
Yes.
come and see us. Come and
Yes.
see us. Alberto, I am really honoured to that you're coming, you're talking, and to be able to hang out and spend time with you is just going to be brilliant. And I'm sure we'll do have lots of conversations about the Disrupt HR triangle that it now is. And yeah, I am really looking forward to hearing your talk.
And Sam, thank you for having me. It's been a blast, and I look forward
It's
to
been a
future
blast.
conversations. Definitely. Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, I just, thank you again, Alberto. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening today. And if you're watching the recording and it's not yet September the 18th and you're loving the vibe and energy, come see us on September the 18th. I'll share the link with you to get your tickets. It's going to be inspirational. You're going to learn a lot. And who knows? You just might come out with something new that you could do and be inspired to implement in your business tomorrow. So without further ado, from Alberto and I, thank you for watching today, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye. Cue the music, everybody.